If today has felt heavy or noisy or strangely off-center, pause with me for a breath that actually reaches your lungs. Let your shoulders drop a little and remember something wonderfully simple. The most meaningful changes in a life, a home, a team, or a city usually begin with one small, honest, merciful choice made by one ordinary person who decides, in the name of Jesus, to act with love when it would be easier to look away. That is the heart of this message, and I'm sharing it as a Christian encouragement, not as a worship service or a prayer you must repeat, but as a practical, steady voice that says the way of Jesus still works in real neighborhoods, real workplaces, real families, and real traffic at real red lights. This is not a debate and not a demand. If you're from another faith or from no faith at all, you are my honored guest here, and I hope what follows feels like a warm porch light on a winter evening. No pressure to come in, just the assurance that the door is friendly. Why talk about the way of Jesus at all? Because Jesus did something disarmingly clear. He took ideas that can sound lofty, love, truth, justice, mercy, and he lived them in kitchens and fields and streets so that people could see in slow motion what love looks like with skin on. He called us to love God with our whole heart, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves, which means faith is not merely a set of opinions, but a practiced pattern where tempers cool, grudges loosen, generosity grows, and the air in our homes becomes easier to breathe. When Jesus described his people as salt and light, he wasn't flattering us. He was giving us a job description: preserve what is good, so decay doesn't win, and illuminate what is true so people can see where to step without tripping. This is daily work, humble work, and strangely joyful work. Let's begin at home, because character does not clock in at the office and clock out at the driveway. It shows up first where we hang our coats. When a child knocks over a glass of juice and your inner siren wants to blare. The way of Jesus invites you to inhale slowly, lower your voice, and turn the mess into a moment of teamwork. Paper towels, a smile, and a sentence like, "We'll fix it together," speaks louder than a lecture ever will, and it tells a young heart that mistakes are not identity and that home is a safe laboratory where courage and honesty can grow. If a spouse or roommate arrives exhausted and half discouraged, you don't need a miracle to bless them. You need a small act of attention, a cup of tea, a chair pulled out, a phone put face down, a simple "I'm here and I'm listening." Because in the way of Jesus, hospitality is not mostly about fancy meals, but about making people feel safe to be human. Turn your dinner table into a place where grace is normal and stories are welcomed, where people apologize without humiliation and forgive without keeping a ledger, because families do not drift into health. They choose it, one unglamorous kindness at a time. Now carry that posture into your work, because integrity at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday is a clearer sermon than 100 slogans. Excellence in the way of Jesus looks like doing what you said you would do, telling the truth even when it costs you a little status, owning mistakes before they metastasize, documenting fairly so credit is shared and blame isn't weaponized, and leading with the kind of steadiness that helps anxious teams exhale. The shortcut will tempt you with speed, but integrity will give you sleep, and there is a freedom in being the same person in a meeting that you are in your kitchen. When you are the manager, put people over optics and long-term health over short-term applause. When you are the newest hire, make curiosity your superpower and reliability your calling card. The way of Jesus does not make you bland. It makes you trustworthy. Online, where keyboards often reveal more about our hearts than we intend, the way of Jesus gives us a different set of reflexes. Slow down before you post, verify before you share, bless before you blast, and ask yourself whether your words build a person up or knock them down. Humor that punches down is not courage, and outrage without accuracy is not righteousness. Set a quiet goal to become a safe presence in digital spaces. No mockery of strangers, no pile-ons, no pretending to know the whole story when you don't. Compliment effort in public, correct error in private where possible, and turn your timeline into a little stream of steady good. Local fundraisers, job leads, thank yous to teachers and nurses and bus drivers who hold cities together without fanfare. You are not trying to be impressive, you are trying to be useful. Forgiveness is where many of us wobble because we confuse it with denial or with letting someone keep harming us. The way of Jesus rescues us from both errors by teaching forgiveness as a rhythm that releases our hearts from the grip of bitterness while keeping wise boundaries that guard dignity and safety. To forgive is not to say it didn't hurt, and it is not to erase consequences. To forgive is to refuse to worship the wound, to stop nursing it until it defines you, and to seek repair where repair is possible while entrusting justice to God and to the appropriate processes when it is not. Sometimes the kindest boundary is a firm no, and sometimes the bravest no is what allows a future yes to be beautiful again. Now, let me place a true story right in the middle of this message like a long, warm candle on a cold table, because stories put skin on ideas and help us remember. It happened on a December evening in New Jersey, the kind of evening when the wind sneaks under your coat and the sky looks like it forgot how to smile. I was sitting at a red light, fingers thawing against a car heater that was trying its best, when I noticed the sedan in front of me with its hazard lights blinking an embarrassed Morse code. The front left tire was flat, and in the driver's seat sat an older woman. Later I learned her name was Mrs. Alvarez, with her grandson curled in a sweatshirt beside her. The light turned green, the sedan didn't move, and the symphony of horns began, a choir without kindness. Inside me, two voices started arguing in the space of a single heartbeat. One said, "You are late. Keep moving. This is someone else's problem." And the other, quieter but clearer, said, "Your neighbor is whoever needs help in front of you right now, so pull over." I signaled, clicked my hazards on, parked behind her, pulled on the gloves I keep for winter errands, and tapped on her window with the kind of gentle awkwardness you use when you don't want to scare someone. "Ma'am, are you okay? If you like, I can help change the tire relief," and worry flickered across her face like two birds crossing the same patch of sky. "Gracias, I'm not sure what to do," she said, half in English and half in Spanish. Just then, another car pulled up behind us, and a tall neighbor, a youth coach from a local school, we'll call him Coach Kareem, stepped out with the easy competence of someone who has changed more tires than he can count. "I've got a proper jack," he grinned, "and about 8 minutes before my fingers belong to the wind." Within seconds, we formed an unlikely little crew. A Christian with a rusty wrench, a Muslim coach with a real jack, and a grandmother holding a shivering boy in a blanket that smelled faintly of laundry soap and cinnamon. We loosened the lug nuts in a crisscross pattern so the wheel would seat right, positioned the jack on the frame where it wouldn't slip, and kept up a steady stream of simple reassurance. "You're okay. We've got you. This will take a moment. but not your whole night. The horns eventually went around us. A few drivers even gave us a thumbs up once they realized we were solving the problem that had annoyed them. When the spare was on and tightened, we lowered the car, checked the pressure, and had her roll forward a foot just to be sure. Mrs. Alvarez's eyes filled, the kind of tears that come when your body realizes danger has passed, and she said, "God sent two strangers with cold hands and warm hearts." Coach chuckled. My grandma would say the same. And then, like neighbors do, we shared resources. He handed her a flyer for his mosque's weekend food drive, and I gave her the address for our church's community pantry, because when kindness is real, it does not care about the labels on the building. It cares about the person in front of the wheel. A week later at the pantry, with the air heavy with coffee and oranges, Mrs. Alvarez walked in holding her grandson's hand and said she wanted to help for an hour because kindness needs to keep moving. She told me about Mr. Chen, a neighbor who had covered part of her utility bill the month before. She told me about a niece who had just started a new job. She told me that the night of the flat tire had made her feel less invisible in a city that can swallow quiet people whole. That evening, I went home convinced of something I had known but needed to see again. The way of Jesus is not a club. It's a current. And when you step into it with even a small act, other people find the courage to step in too, until the street that felt cold is threaded with warm, practical light. We didn't fix the economy, we didn't pass a law, and we didn't go viral. We just changed a tire with respect, and somehow hope changed a little bit of the neighborhood. What do we learn from a story like that? We learn that love is embarrassingly practical. It turns on hazard lights, it keeps gloves in the trunk, it shares a flyer without worrying about who gets the credit, and it leaves people more human than it found them. We learn that mercy often interrupts our schedules, and that the cost, though real, is small compared to the gift of remembering who we are. And we learn that bridges are built fastest when people who disagree about plenty still agree to meet human need with clean hands and open hearts. Bring that lesson back to your ordinary week and give it shape. You don't need a grand plan, but a simple pattern helps. For 7 days, try this extended rhythm. On day 1, start at home. Do one invisible act of service for someone you live with. Wash the dishes to the end, fold the laundry that isn't yours, take the trash for both bins on your floor, and do it quietly, because secrecy grows sincerity. On day 2, shift to work or school. Choose one person whose effort often goes unseen, and tell them specifically what you noticed. You organize that handout clearly. Or, your calm kept the meeting on the rails, because praise that names reality teaches everyone what good looks like. On day 3, practice neighborhood kindness. Learn or use a neighbor's name. Bring in their bin when the wind drags it. Leave a small note of thanks for the elder who sweeps the sidewalk every morning. Cities become communities when names replace labels. On day 4, make your online spaces safer. Delete the snark draft you almost posted. Share a resource that helps. And if you can, send a private message of encouragement to someone taking too many arrows for telling an uncomfortable truth. On day 5, practice generosity with money or time or attention depending on what you have. Cover a coffee, buy extra groceries for a local pantry, give a ride to an appointment, or babysit so a single parent can breathe. On day 6, repair something relational. If it's safe to do so, send a gentle message that says, "I value you, can we reset or talk?" No grand speeches, just courage in a sentence and curiosity in your tone. On day 7, honor, rest, and gratitude. List 3 gifts from the week that you would have missed if you had been rushing. Write down one person to bless on Monday and put your phone to sleep earlier than usual so your mind remembers what quiet feels like. Let's talk about words, because Jesus reminded us that words reveal what is inside, like windows reveal living rooms. Let your speech be a small spring that carries life, not a flood that erodes it. Replace sarcasm that makes you look clever with encouragement that makes someone else feel brave. Trade gossip about a problem for a conversation with the person who can help solve it. Practice short sentences that tell the truth without trying to win the argument. I don't know enough to comment. I was wrong. You might be right. I need to think about that. Thank you for telling me tone matters. It is entirely possible to be correct and still be cruel, and the way of Jesus never confuses cruelty for courage. Now, money and possessions, use them, don't worship them. The way of Jesus asks us to make profit with fairness, to refuse exploitation even when the contract allows it, to pay promptly, to price honestly, and to keep a quiet margin in our budgets labeled others so that generosity isn't an accident, but a plan. You are allowed to enjoy what you have, and you are responsible to steward what you have. Both can be true at the same time. Give in ways that respect dignity. Ask what is actually helpful. Prefer partnership over savior poses, and choose habits you can sustain so that your yes today doesn't become your bitterness tomorrow. Parenting and honoring elders is simply love taking the shape of attention. With children, don't only say, "Don't shout." Show them how you lower your voice when you're angry, how you set the phone aside when someone is speaking, how you apologize first when you're wrong, and how you stand quietly with a classmate who's being left out. That is how little hearts learn courage without becoming harsh. With elders, ask for a story and then actually listen. Write down a recipe as they describe it. Offer rides before they must ask. Respect the pace of their bodies and the pace of their memories, because honoring those who went ahead of us is not antiquated. It is how wisdom travels to the future. When you feel worn thin, remember that rest is not betrayal of the mission. It is how you keep from becoming a combustible person carrying matches into every room. The way of Jesus dignifies sleep and meals and silence. Take a walk without headphones. Breathe air that hasn't been inside a building all day. Leave 3 inches of white space on your calendar so mercy has somewhere to land, and accept help without writing a secret debt on your heart. You are finite on purpose. Limits aren't failures. They are features that push us toward community. Justice with mercy is part of the same road. Stand with people who are easy to overlook. Children, the poor, the sick, the stranger, the person returning from prison, the person living with a disability.